my estimate, and of course I can be wrong by a few years, is that we're probably going to be using gold and silver as money around the world in another 20, 25 years from now, which is not at all a long period of time. No. When I make a statement like this, I have some credentials to ask for some respect for my opinion, because for the last 15 years I have been publicly speaking and writing, anticipating that the US dollar will collapse. That it will not only collapse, it must collapse. 15 years now. No other monetary economist has done that. And I came to that conclusion based on my study, not so much of monetary economics, which I have studied at 2 universities, but more because of my study of eschatology, or the branch of knowledge which studies the end of history. We are now living at that moment in time when the US dollar, it is widely recognized, is on its way out. How could I, 15 years ago, anticipate what is now taking place and accurately anticipate this? I not only anticipated that the US dollar would collapse, but more than that, I anticipated that when it collapsed, that it would bring down the entire world of paper currencies, and that would make way for the introduction of a world of, a monetary system of electronic or digital money. In fact, I was wrong, because the world of digital and electronic money is already here. It now commands most of financial transactions in the world, and paper is only used for microtransactions. So I was wrong with that, but not by far. If I am correct that the world is going to return to gold and silver coins as money in the not too distant future, then it is not far-fetched for me to argue that what's wrong with our seeking to do it now. That's from the economic and monetary perspective. From the moral perspective, money should have integrity. Money should have integrity. Our problem today is that those who study economics and study monetary economics take morality out of the classroom. There is no relationship between morality and economics. That's nonsense. That's nonsense, yeah. So we insist that money should have integrity. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
What is wrong with that? What do we mean by integrity? Meaning, money has several functions, one of which is to be a medium of exchange for buying and selling. But the other function is to be a store of value. That if I work for the month and I'm paid my salary, the value of my salary should not be arbitrarily changed and diminished, and I be robbed of the fruit of my labor. The money that we're now using in some parts of the world loses value every year. And when the US dollar collapses, and the ensuing panic reaction emerges, as I expect, the value of money would probably be changing by the hour. Runaway inflation, it's called. But they only recognize inflation as rising prices. I recognize inflation as the falling or plummeting value of money. Money which is falling constantly in value is money which has failed to function as a store of value. That paper currency around the world has already failed. If I had 20 US dollars 80, 90 years ago, with that 20 US dollars, I could go to any bank and I can exchange it for 1 ounce of gold. All right? Today, that 20 US dollars probably cannot buy even 1 gram of gold. From 20, it went to 35, so it lost its value by almost 100%. It was 1944, and then by 1973, it went down to $160 for 1 ounce of gold. It lost its value by another 400%. This is the US dollar, not the Pakistani rupee. And today it's trading at about $1,700 for 1 ounce of gold. Clearly, this money has failed to store its value. It has no integrity. But the gold coin and the silver coin, all through human history, has successfully functioned as money, storing value. And so everybody knows that when there is runaway inflation in any country, the foolproof method of curing that disease is to introduce gold coins in the market. Argentina had runaway inflation, I think about 15 years ago perhaps. And Argentina introduced gold coins in the market and they solved the problem of inflation. Okay? So from the moral perspective, I think we have a very strong case of turning away from money which has failed to store value, which therefore has no integrity, to turn towards money which has, for all through human history, successfully stored value, and therefore which has integrity. And finally, from a religious perspective, for those who declare themselves to be Muslims, and who in so declaring have some sincerity in what they say, for them there is an obligation, because money in the Quran is there. It's dinar. Dinar is a gold coin. I think the word dinar predates the Quran, some thousands of years before. And the word dinar is linked to the Roman coin, which was called, I can make a mistake now, I think it's denarius or something like that. But you can check it out on the internet. So maybe this name came from that name, but this is the name which was used in Arabia, dinar. And the word dirham, this is the dirham that we have here, the silver coin. It is in the Quran. Our Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessing be upon him, used dinar and dirham, and all the prophets of God used dinar and dirham, everybody, all through history. It is part of the religion of Islam. And we have a religious obligation to recover that which was, I can't say lost, I have to use a stronger word, that which was taken away from us. We have a religious obligation to restore the dinar and dirham, and we have to do it quickly, because if we don't, then the world will return to gold and silver before we do, and that would be disgraceful for us.
Does the timing of when the dirham and the dinar, would it be relevant? I mean, if the world returns to it before the Muslim world does, how would that be?
I just said it would be disgraceful for Muslims. Those who are not Muslims are using the money which is in our scripture and which our Prophet used, and we are not using it. That we should have to turn to them for guidance and follow their example would be a very sad commentary on our conduct, our religious conduct. I pray to the one God that He may take me away from the world, that I'm not alive to witness that day, because the disgrace will be too great for me.
Okay. What are the challenges actually in bringing the dirham and the dinar into the current world right now? Are there any challenges you feel?
This region of the world, Southeast Asia, must be commended, because it was a political leader in Southeast Asia who has so far made the most powerful critique of the existing monetary system. That's Dr. Muhammad Mahathir. Before him, the most powerful critique of all to have come from a government came from President Charles de Gaulle of France, and that was in 1971. And Dr. Mahathir was in 2000 and maybe 2004 or 5, somewhere around there. Yeah. He argued that the present monetary system was unjust, and he was absolutely correct. He argued that the return to gold and silver as money would remove the injustice. The government of Malaysia organized international conferences on gold dinar, and he actually entered into elaborate monetary analysis to support his views, because he had 20 years of experience as a prime minister. And then someone informed him of something he was not aware of. And that is that the International Monetary Fund has a document known as the Articles of Agreement, which is the Constitution. And the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund prohibit the use of gold as money. That is not only regrettable and lamentable, it is something mysterious. Mysterious. Why would you prevent us Why would you prevent mankind? Argentina wants to return to gold and silver to solve inflation. Why would international law prevent the use of gold and silver as money? It's mysterious. I think it's because those who gave us this monetary system, this unjust monetary system, and who themselves are the authors of the International Monetary Fund, wanted to perpetuate a system of injustice. And that's why they put into the Articles of Agreement this prohibition of the use of gold as money. But when Argentina was facing runaway inflation, Argentina didn't bother about the IMF. The Argentinians simply brought in the gold into the economy and solved the problem. And the IMF could do nothing about it. And so that is an obstacle today, preventing us from the use of gold and silver as money, international law. But it is unjust. And the highest law of all is the moral law. We do not recognize any law higher than the moral law. So whatever law is enacted by any government or by any international organization that is in conflict with the moral law, we should have the right to disregard it and to stay with the moral law. And I think that provided that we are able to successfully convey this information to our peoples around the world, with not only Muslims, that an effort will be made to try to return to gold and silver as money. Zimbabwe, runaway inflation. And when governments print the paper, and the paper is constantly losing its value, who is becoming poorer? Not the government, not the elite who support the government. They get richer, in fact. The people become poorer. The people of Zimbabwe becoming poorer, not the government. So if we can reach out this message to mankind and get them to understand the injustice of the present monetary system and the imperative of returning to a just monetary system, I think many countries would be prepared to defy that unjust law in the IMF. I was invited to Brunei to address the International Islamic Conference organized by the Sultan Omar Ali Saifuddin Center for Islamic Studies of the University of Brunei. And the topic on which I spoke was Islam and the future of money. And I not only addressed the conference on that subject, but I have spoken elsewhere, like, was it yesterday at the University of Brunei? And there was a packed auditorium. There was hardly any empty seats. And I spoke on Islam and the future of money, the gold dinar. And we handed out a questionnaire that all participants will write their views on the content of my lecture. And the result that we got was that there's no one who attended that lecture who expressed any differing opinion. No. There were lots of inquiries for more information. And some of them were, could you kindly deliver the lecture in Bahasa? But the response that we got was positive. I spoke at a high school. What was the name of the school?
Of science.
Oh, okay.
To sixth form students, the best of the country. And I addressed other gatherings on this subject during the 9-10 days that I've been here. And there was not a single instance during my stay of anyone challenging my views on the subject of money, which is a positive development.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, there are some obstacles, but I don't think they are insurmountable.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Haven't elaborated on Charles de Gaulle.
Yeah, Charles de Gaulle, France is an intensely nationalist state. The French are very proud of French civilization and very proud of French language, French culture, and French cuisine, and very proud of French women. And so when Charles de Gaulle studied the monetary system and found that it was so unjust, giving to the United States of America very transparently a massive unjust advantage over the rest of the world, he stood up in the French Parliament and gave a very powerful address criticizing all the defects in the monetary system that came out of the Bretton Woods Accord and the IMF. And then, according to the agreement that was the IMF, every government in the world had the right to take their US dollars to the United States at any time they wanted and demand that the United States redeem those dollars for gold at $35 an ounce, which is international law. Charles de Gaulle decided, well, I want to get my gold. So in September 1971, for the first time since the IMF was established in 1944-45, Charles de Gaulle invoked that provision of the treaty, and his central bank sent $3 billion to Washington and asked that it be converted to gold at the rate of $35 an ounce, which is there in the treaty.
Mm-hmm.
The United States realized that the game was up. If the United States had only 1 million ounces of gold, then by the law, the United States did not have the right to print more than $35 million. Because you're only allowed to print that much money which can be converted to gold at $35 an ounce. But they had printed far more than that. Suppose, Debbie, you have $1,000 in your account, and the bank gives you a checkbook. And everybody in Brunei knows Debbie. All the shops know you. Would you go and write your checks for $50,000? No, that's fraudulent. You go to jail for that. All that you have is 1,000 in your account, and you're writing checks for 50,000. But that's exactly what the US government did. They had 1,000 in gold and they wrote out checks for 50,000. So when Charles de Gaulle said, I want my gold, the game was up. Because they didn't have the gold for all those who now come with their dollars. Saudi Arabia will come, Japan will come. So the game was up. So the United States declared in September 1971, in effect, we gave our word, but we don't have to keep it. Yes. That is the moral collapse of the United States. We gave our word under Bretton Woods. We were legally obliged, according to international law, to redeem US dollars for gold at the rate of $35 an ounce of gold to any request from any central bank. And when the first request came, they reneged on their obligations under the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund. This is a very sad chapter in human history because of this unjust monetary system. This is not the only reason, but this is one of the major reasons why so many parts of the world today are not just poor, they're in a state of destitution. Yeah, destitution. Allah did not create, the one God did not create the Indonesian woman to be a slave. Did he? No. What's wrong? Why should the Indonesian people have the gentlest disposition you can find? They have the sweetest smile you can ever find, both the male and the female. They are such nice people, the Indonesian. And the Indonesian woman in particular. Why should she be a slave? Why must she be in the millions working as domestic servants for a wage which can easily be recognized as a slave wage? And the women of the region do not raise their voices to say this is wrong. This is wrong. This is unjust to be paying a slave wage. Why can't the women of Indonesia live the way the women of Brunei live, or the women of Singapore live? It is because of this unjust monetary system. Remember, I said this is not the only reason. There are other reasons as well, but this is one of the main reasons. And because of this, some are growing poorer and poorer and poorer and poorer. And their loss is the gain of others who are growing richer and richer.
Ron Paul?
Ron Paul. There are powerful voices in the Western world which have consistently been calling for a return to gold and silver. The most famous voice of all is that of Ron Paul, who fought as a candidate in the last presidential elections. I think he came third. Barack Obama won the election. But the popularity of Ron Paul has been growing constantly. Very large numbers of Americans now support his views, particularly on money. And he has been consistently asking that gold and silver be restored as money. And he has questioned the law in the International Monetary Fund prohibiting the gold of money. He wrote to the US Treasury Department a letter asking for an explanation why. And the US Treasury Department just would not reply to him because there is no reply. This is fraudulent, so what answer can they give? Yeah. Ron Paul is not the only. There are many others, but he is the most prominent. So it's not just Muslims. No, calling for the return of gold and silver as money. No. We are doing it because we have a religious obligation. And Brunei is a country which proclaims itself, from the Sultan come down, proclaims itself to be a people and a country with a sincere attachment to Islam. if you have sincerity, you must recognize that this money is in the Quran and it is in the Sunnah of the Prophet, it is a part of the religion, and that they should come back and bring it back, and we are not doing it, it will be disgraceful for us. A major embarrassment.